Hi all, I have another magnificent positional game from Leela to show you. This is against Jonny 8.1 in the TSEC Season 14 Division 1 round 15. So e4 from Leela. This is the opening book now, which is the Sicilian defense Sveshnikov variation. And here, this is the end of the book. Leela plays bishop g5, a6, knight a3, and the most common move is b5, but Jonny plays bishop e7. Fritz had played bishop e6. Both of these are kind of inferior moves. They're thought to be inferior to b5, so it's interesting though to investigate what happens. Knight c4, bishop g4, bishop e2, a trade of bishops, b5 now, bishop takes f6, bishop takes f6, knight e3. So giving up the dark square bishop, but getting a nice lock and key over the d5 square. Bishop g5, knight ed5, both sides castle, queen b8, b4 locking down against b4 from black, queen b7, a4, knight d4, queen d3, rook ac8, a takes, a takes. This is a long-term liability, this pawn. We see f4 tactically exploiting the loose, potentially loose knight on d4, so black cannot take. On f4 here we have bishop d8, f5 with the potential for playing f6, king h8. It's not played here. We have rook a2 trying to seize that a file, maybe with an infiltration to a7. We have queen c6 being played. On rook a8, white just takes there and plays knight takes b5. There's no problem. For example, here, just take here. No problem. So that'll be a free pawn. So queen c6, g3, which gives rise to the idea of h4 potentially, and king g2, bishop g5, h4, bishop h6, king g2, g6. This looks like it's inviting the dreaded form pawn. T-shirt store link. Okay, form pawn is invited with f6, and that is what happens here. f6. You might wonder, well, why g6? Why? If rook fe8, f6 anyway, this position is very nice indeed. White can even play this. For example, bishop g7, c3, and where is the knight going? The knight's kind of stranded. On this continuation, it's just getting the king checkmated, in fact, like this. So there are problems with the knight on d4, as this shows. On f6, rook a5 torturing b5 and dominating the a file here. This is very, very pleasant for white indeed. White gets a massive position. For example, like this. It's just one way. This is a fictional continuation, but black starts crumbling. So g6, f6, form pawn, rook a8, white takes that a file. We have now queen b7, so black's very defensively placed. Knight d1, preparing to kick this knight on d4, which is black's best piece. Rook b8, queen a3, knight goes back, knight f2, bishop f8. The bishop is a prisoner here in this position. Queen e3, queen c8, c3. So slowly but surely black's pieces are being nullified. That knight is also without too many useful squares. It goes to d8, but now this allows rook a7, rook b7, and now the queens are potentially coming off after queen b6. The rook's coming off, queen's coming off. This endgame basically leaves b5 even weaker now without too much support. And it's on a light square. The dark square bishop can't really help this light square pawn. This is a bit of a tragic endgame position to have. Bishop h6, we have knight c8, hitting d6 and also preparing knight a7 potentially, like now. So the b pawn is going to be dropping off. Here, king f3, and now that's taken. The king at least can come to the center but is it any good here? A pawn down in this position. We have knight d8, g4, preparing to put the bishop in prison with g5. Bishop f8, king e2, knight e6, knight h3, bishop h6. We have the king coming to d3, bishop c1. Now g5. Now here, it's interesting, you might think, well, is h6 possible? It's mostly harmless, actually, after king c2. Where is the bishop going? So if hg and the bishop sack, that's no problem, just knight g1, piece up. Here, if bishop f4, again, no problem, white just takes that and takes on h6. That's totally winning. So it's tricky. So king c6. We have king c2, and now bishop f4. On bishop a3, the bishop's likely to be trapped. For example, knight f2, and then knight d3, taking away c1 for king b3 now to munch that bishop. This is just a nightmare. So the bishop goes to f4, but it's just totally winning after knight takes. This is a pawn which is going to be dropping pretty shortly, pretty soon. So the pawn's dropping, and yep, 2 pawns up, totally winning. It's here that it's adjudicated as a win for white. So the game ended here. On king d3, for example, king c6, c4, this position, white can easily translate this into a winning, even more winning position. For example, that traps the knight. Or if knight d7 bet there, then e5, we just get this totally winning king and pawn ending. So yeah, 2 pawns up, of course that's winning. So game ending here. So another positional masterclass from Leela against the Sveshnikov, Sicilian Sveshnikov. So both Fritz and Jonny improvising, it seems, not knowing about the b5 theory, which is the top move in Chess-Based live book. And Leela plays really naturally, really thematically within this pawn structure. This shows perhaps a great strength of neural networks in certain types of positions where there's minimal counterplay already. Leela seems to excel, imprisoning pieces, as these 2 examples show, this game, and you might have seen the Fritz game as well on the channel. Okay, I hope you enjoyed this game. If you enjoyed it, please click on the top left box, which should appear shortly, to become a member at chessworld.net to play against other YouTubers. You can also check the YouTube analysis in advance of these games. From the Improve menu, learn from the Masters YouTube order button. Comments, questions, donations, see the description. Like, share, subscribe with the notification bell. Really appreciated. And also there's a new Teespring store in the description. Okay, thanks very much.